From the timeless void of space, an errant ray of eldritch truth passes through the fertile mind of a coast-dwelling wizard, whose hands, in a flash of insight, pen this newly unearthed arcana. Its name, Psionic Options Revisited. So, that's what this is, and it's not an introduction to the show, which is Unearthed ARTcana. It's just an introduction to the episode.
Yeah. Just a H.G. Wells style.
Yeah, we're trying new things. But Unearthed ARTcana is the thing where we look at the new Unearthed ARTcana subclass and I draw it and we have a chat about it. I guess I'll say that I'm Theo because this seems like the good time to do that.
And I'm Neil.
And I am Sam.
Yeah. We've done all the psionic options that there's. I guess we didn't do one back when Mystic first came out because I don't think this channel existed when that happened.
No, that was like what, 2016, 17?
It was ages ago.
It was a while
actually.
ago.
It was a long
Psionics
time
came
ago.
out.
And we've done the Psi Knight who was cool, and the Soul Knife who was cool, and now we're gonna look at the Psionic Soul Sorcerer. I have not said that out loud yet. That's a lot of S.
Does the Psionic Soul Sorcerer sell seashells by the seashore?
By the seashore, to the Wizard of the Coast, yeah. Where are we? What are we doing? Okay, Psionic Soul.
Psionic Soul.
Please. We're going to start the drawing stuff because there's way too much blank at the beginning. I had to draw a wizard last time. I want you guys to guess before it's obvious what race this drawing is.
Okay.
And then we'll go into it.
I'm going to go with a bugbear. Before we...
You're locking in bugbear now? Okay. You better be quick, Neil, because it's going to be obvious pretty quick.
Oh, okay. It's pretty obvious.
I don't know, but I what the fuck? I can't guess now.
No, don't worry about the thing. What would be cool? What would be a cool thing? What would be a cool psionic?
Elf. I don't know. I panicked.
You did panic. You certainly panicked because, especially with what's on the screen currently. Anyway,
I stopped looking at it when you said.
I did say to stop looking at it. It's a Duragar. It's going to be a Duragar.
I love it.
I thought of this pretty much straight away, and then I actually looked into it, and there's precedent for this in, I believe, Volos. There's a bit about Duragar, and then there's a bit where it says specifically there is a psionic, like there was an excerpt from a journal where like a Duragar gets psionic abilities like awakened. I was like, oh, sick. It's weirdly absent in the flavor text for the psionic stuff in this Unearthed ARTcana, because they've been talking about before each class, like, oh, what race could you be or what your origin could be, and Duragar is missing, which is weird because they do have a connection. They are, related in ways to Mind Flayer stuff going on, obviously psionic stuff going on there, and there's stuff in the books about it every now and again. Anyway, that's what I'm doing.
That's cool. I love it.
I really like Duragar. They're one of my favourite monster races, as a quote-unquote monster races.
They've got such a good aesthetic.
So yeah, the Psionic Soul Sorcerer. There's quite a lot at the beginning of this one. I think probably because this one, at least in the minds of those writing it, they thought this was the one that had the most options for why you might be psionic, as it were. But we were talking about the rogue, how it was weird that the chart that's at the beginning of this sorcerer is not at the beginning of all of them, or isn't just a generic chart for the whole thing. I definitely think you could use it for that. Because the first thing in here is a D10 chart. Obviously, it's just for inspiration, but all the origins of your psionics as a sorcerer. And some of them are pretty crazy. There's obviously things like, oh, you're exposed to the far realm, or a psychic wind from the astral plane, which I feel like those two are very similar. Exposed to a realm. I guess the far realm is even more than the astral realm, isn't it? Astral plane. I like a spirit haunts your mind. Like that's kind of a different take on psionics than... But then it's the real world psychics as in mediums communicating with spirits. So that's kind of actually an interesting angle that I hadn't considered.
What I really like is number 10, which is you grew up near a lair of a sapphire dragon, which is a dragon that isn't in D&D at the moment. It's a very old school one, the ruby dragon.
Yeah.
I've not read all the campaigns and such, but I don't think there's any reference to the gemstone dragons in any of them that I'm aware of. I think Matt Colville's got them in his Strongholds and Followers stuff, I believe.
Yeah, they're very old school. The next one. Very old school. Very weird as well.
Hopefully that could hint at something in an upcoming book, maybe.
Dragon DLC.
I don't know.
I ain't gonna say no to more dragons.
More dragons would be cool, especially more interesting ones, as it were. Not as in ones that are more interesting, but just more ones that are interesting.
And relevant to Baldur's Gate number 7.
Yes. You are implanted with a Mind Flayer tadpole, but your ceramorphosis never completed. Now that sounds very familiar if you've watched the Baldur's Gate 3 stuff at all, which is cool. But and as some of you pointed out before, the imaginary friend that sort of never went away, as it were.
I think anything that puts more flumps in the game is doing the right thing.
Exactly.
In my books.
Yeah.
He ended up also not being imaginary, so he is a flump.
Yeah.
It just has given you... Some of these feel more like Warlock origins, in that you're getting them specifically from other creatures, like, being trained in Psionic Spike.
I think there's no back and forth, is the difference with, like, a Warlock.
That is true.
A Warlock feels like a give and take. This is like a gift.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I think any of these origins you could really easily use for the other two classes. In fact, I think if you don't have a reason that's as robust as one of these, then that might, depending on how the campaign works, but that could be a little bit weird. They're like, oh, I'm just psychic. I haven't thought about it too much. Come on, these are cool. Use them.
I think you did hypothesize last week that it was because the others don't start at level 1.
Yeah. Sorcerers get their origin at level 1, don't they?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So you quite literally need to have it before you start.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones, you could.
It'd be a bit
guess,
weird that you suddenly say that you're trained by a monk.
If you hadn't thought about it, yeah.
You could have it if you had it talked with your DM, you could have it an event happen in the game that makes you psychic.
Sure, yeah.
Very cool.
I think if you are starting at level 1 and people don't know that you're going to be doing one of the Psionic classes, definitely talk to your DM about it, because it's like with the Paladin Oaths, that's something to think about and know about beforehand, and Warlock especially as well. Talk with your DM about what you're doing with your character, because then they can give you cool stuff.
They talk about the game for everyone.
Exactly. They can't help you make your character do cool things if they don't. If you're keeping secrets from the DM, keep secrets from other people if you want. Anyway. Psionic talent is the unique thing for Psionic classes. We're not going to go into it super in depth. We talked about it more in depth in the Psi Knight video. It's a cool mechanic. You basically get a die that you can add to certain rolls that is determined by your Psionic talents, essentially. And they affect basically everything that the subclasses give you. And they go up and down. It's kind of cool. It's very different.
It's a thumbs up out of 10.
Yeah. And there's a link in the description if you want to read it. All of the classes have the same summary, so it is quite wordy, but it's quite simple when you actually look at it more carefully. So, the Psionic talent options that are available from first level for your sorcerer, they're pretty cool. We've got 3 of them. The first one's Psionic Discovery. This one's pretty cool. Basically, you roll your Psionic talent die after 10 minutes of meditating, and for the amount of hours equal to the amount that you rolled, which can be... At low level, it's a D6, but then by high level, it's a D12, so you could have it for 12 hours. You can choose another spell from the sorcerer spell list, so long as it's a divination or enchantment, and then you have that spell prepared and memorized, as it were, for that number of hours or that you rolled, essentially. Yeah, so this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is...
I don't know the sorcerer spell list incredibly well, and within that, I don't know what every divination and enchantment spell is.
I like this as giving a sorcerer more options with their spells, obviously not being able to change them, the way they prepare their spells is different to something like a wizard. They're a little bit limited in that way.
It's more like a bard, isn't it? They just get the spells that they choose.
You have them. So I think, if you're a bit I want to keep it freed up and I can have these 2 schools that I can pull something from, in a way how, certain classes prepare a spell for that day's encounter. But I might need this spell. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
And 10 minutes is easier to get away with in role playing terms than
you do in the morning
for long rest to change your spells like cleric and stuff. And it's annoying to be to think I have this spell in my spell list, but I need to take a long rest before I can use it. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, I can meditate for 10 minutes and then have access to maybe a more utility spell, which you're not going to need in combat potentially, and then be able to use that again. I don't know all the spells, but I guess the divination spells can be pretty non-combat-y.
Also things like suggestion, charms.
Sure.
Yeah.
That.
Very useful as well. Again, it's basically giving you another spell almost for free. Not quite, but basically just to give you another spell to use. The next thing is psychic sorcery. Wow, I'm so used to using the word psionic instead of psychic, so that caught me by surprise. Jesus. Psychic sorcery. Basically, you roll your psionic talent die. That's a phrase that's going to come up a lot, I feel. And
drinking game.
Yeah. This one's a little weird. So basically, if you do that, and then the spell that you cast doesn't use verbal components because it's psychic, using just your mind. And if you rolled the level of the spell or higher, it doesn't use the somatic or material components either.
Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely amazing, especially if you are being very strict with the component stuff. I feel like silence is a spell that's very scary, so being able to not use being able to cast without worrying about verbal stuff is very good.
I also like it because we read the Rogue not too long ago together.
Yeah.
And the Rogue was always leveling you down. And this is another roll one. So potentially your character could always be doing this?
I have an interesting point about that. I was maybe going to mention it later, but I'll mention it now. I've read through it pretty carefully. I'm pretty certain there's nothing in the Sorcerer class, Psionic class, that actually just straight up levels your die down. All of them are just rolling it. And all the Rogue ones level it down, apart from the very basic abilities for it. Which I think is really cool, like... I'm sure it's deliberate, but the rogue, as we were talking about, doesn't rely on their psionics. They are a backup.
Yeah.
The fighter is very specialized into basically telekinetic force psionics, and thus has a few things that roll, a few things that will straight downgrade it and wear them down. And the sorcerer, the way that the leveling down of these psionic die is meant to represent that you're getting exhausted and weaker and such, right?
Yeah, they have a larger pool. Yeah.
The sorcerer never gets weak, so the sorcerer feels more like they're completely in control of this power. They never get exhausted, definitely, by something that they do.
Yeah, unintentional.
Which is really,
or
really
not,
cool.
That is cool. Particularly with the backgrounds. The backgrounds are like you were trained for this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has to be deliberate, and if it is, it's very cool. It's a way of taking what was already quite a unique mechanic for D&D, for 5th at least, and then making it unique within the 3 classes that use it. Very cool.
And again, functionally quite infinite, using it a whole lot once you get to higher level. Because at low level on a D4, obviously, you're going to burn through those.
Yeah, you're going to roll a 1 on a D4 the first time you do it. That's how D4s work. But yeah, when you have a D12 as a psionic die, the buffer between you losing it's so far, it's so wide. The odds of, I guess we could actually figure out what the odds of it are. Maybe I'll put that on screen. We're not going to sit here and do it now, but it might be interesting to see when you have that.
The fact is that when you're a D12 and then you go down, and then when it goes down, you have just as much chance of it going back up again as it going down again. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, the Psionic Sorcery talent, just to go back to that, before we forget, this one's kind of weird as well, just because there is the meta magic option, which is basically the same but doesn't have a random component to it. I guess that means if you wanted that meta magic, you could free up that slot by using this more liberally.
Yeah. That's true, although with the meta magic options, I don't think I'd ever pick that one.
I agree. Personally, yeah. But yeah, the third one, this is a cool variation on the telepathy that the rogue had, telepathic speech. So you form a bond with one other creature as a bonus action. The number of hours and the number of miles are both that you can communicate are equal to the number that you roll on your die. You do have to have a common language to be able to communicate, so I think this one's probably not quite as useful as the rogue version.
Yeah, the rogue version is just they need a language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but that guaranteed de-levels you.
Exactly. This one is unlikely to de-level you. Miles is big. I think was the rogue one only over 1 mile? It was, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So again, this is it's pretty good. This is going to be useful in a lot of situations, I think. Maybe more so. We were talking about with the rogue. We're saying how. Yeah, Sam, I think you said that if you come across something in the wilderness that has a different language, you could then use it to communicate with it. You couldn't do that with this. This is more of a inter-party. Or at least inter-ally thing, but it's still pretty good.
And I just thought of this. I know that we have a certain friend who's a DM who, the second they would have an NPC who would come in and try and look all awesome being a Psionic character, they'd immediately try to talk inside our heads and would keep rolling dice and losing their Psionic levels. And then their cool NPC would be out of magic.
It's like, sorry guys, I can't actually do any of my stuff. I use it all speaking
That's such a Tom move, I just want to say.
Yeah, just like, I'm just gonna roll. Oh yeah, I'm gonna roll all. Yeah, he's gonna speak to all of you. Oh, that's actually a fair point, because I don't think you can't just keep using it on like multiple creatures. You can only be bonded to one creature at a time. That would have been interesting if you could have had multiple, because then you'd be running the gambit each time you rolled it that you'd be losing it. But I think I think this is like a reasonable side grade to the rogues one. I think they're distinct enough, though in practice they're probably going to be used in a similar way, doing good for reconnaissance, obviously. I guess the more miles thing means that if you're doing like a hex crawly explorer thing, you could meld your brain with the guy back in town and say, okay, we're going to go out this day a certain number of miles, we'll be in touch.
Just keep in contact with the rogue who's scouting ahead,
Exactly, that sort of thing. And that means, they're scouting ahead, they can actually be pretty decently far ahead.
Yeah.
As opposed to, usually the rogue tends to be sort of like 100 feet so that you can run in if things go wrong. Nothing super crazy there. I think the Psionic Discovery is probably going to be the one you use the most. You'll probably start every single day by doing that, to be quite honest.
It can't be underestimated, the ability of being able to talk telepathically to other party members in situations where potentially a conversation you'd normally be having out of character, you can now actually be having in character about how this guy's probably going to backstab you, and you can be alerting people or tell people what you notice. The roleplay possibility of a psychic is amazing.
Telepathic communication is the superpower that all D&D characters
already
sort of
have.
They already have it, but this is a way to actually use it in a way that and then
you're not metagaming.
Yeah, you're just using your cool ability. Anyway,
and it also could be really cool for this to be used as inspiration for NPC psionics. Stuff this, because of the idea of an NPC who, as I was talking about, seems all powerful, coming in, talking inside your heads and changing their own spell slots around. This sounds like a really powerful guy, and this is a level 1 ability.
Yeah, a guy who can be like, oh, you need a specific spell, and then like sit down and then like, okay, I have it ready.
Yeah.
There's no class that can do that. So that's very cool. So at 6th level, very simple ability, you roll your psionic die, and then you add that as damage, psychic damage, to a spell that you cast. So not on a cantrip. But so this is incredibly simple. I think you used the words mind bullets.
Mind bullets.
Yeah.
Helpful bullets.
Helpful bullets. But yeah, I guess the sorcerer is kind of has the opportunity to do a lot of damage. And I guess if it's an attack roll spell, then it could crit with the psionic die. I don't see why not.
Yeah, it would. Maybe. Most of the new psychic attacks, like mind thrust and stuff, is one single target damage, which is directly related because this is to when it hits a creature.
Yeah.
So it's explicitly like one target, one thing. That's how I at least read it. Is okay, I do.
I'd say so.
Yeah, and by 6th level you have 3rd level spell slots. So
yes.
It kind of feels a little lame.
It feels a little lame, but also it's that philosophy of this guy's using the die a lot as opposed to the rogue who's barely using it.
That's true.
This is just like you're just rolling it every single turn.
That is true.
As damage, essentially.
If you're actually casting a spell slot,
that is true. It's not the most exciting bit, but bearing in mind, I don't think the other two didn't have source of psychic damage. Like the fighter just did force damage
really
and
true,
then regular weapons, and this one, it also gives you that opportunity to go like for example, you're playing a necromancer, so whenever you do a fiery spell, it's not just fire, it's like black fire, like necromancer. And obviously that's just a cool visual thing, but it's very neat. This gives you that opportunity to be, I cast my fireball stuff, but also it's telekinetic, so maybe it moves weirdly and there's like geometric shapes floating.
I get it. No, that's cool. Yeah.
Not the most exciting, but yeah, the 14th level thing, mind over body. This is also like really. There's a lot here, so you got to pace yourself for this one.
Can't sprint it.
So as a bonus action, you roll your die again. Take a drink, and 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 this one interacts with the spell, the sorcery points mechanic as well. So you roll a die and you spell one or more sorcery points, and you transform yourself, which I think is a weird. Whenever I hear the word transform, I think of a physical transformation, where I don't think this necessarily means that. Although I don't see why you couldn't have that necessarily. But you transform yourself for a number of hours equal to the number that you roll.
You do become goo.
You can. Okay, we'll get to the goo, but yes, that is a very fair point. Until you run out of hours that you roll, you have a number of benefits, and you can have one of these benefits or all of them if you spend. It's one sorcery point per benefit, essentially. And you get quite a few sorcery points, especially, and you can like refresh.
By this
them.
level, you'll have a few.
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll have 14. because I think it's one per level of the money. Yeah. I think you can turn a first level spell slot into 2 sorcery points.
There's all kinds,
You burn them back and forth,
which is really, really cool. But yeah, so the first transformation, you can see any invisible creature within 60 feet, as long as it's not behind top
As long as it's not also hiding.
Yeah, as long as it's not like behind a wall. Like, yeah, I guess
as long as the
makes sense.
invisible guy isn't hiding.
But this is kind of crazy. Like, there's not a lot of sources of. It's not true sight, but I feel like one of the big. Effectively, true sight, the only other real benefit of true sight is illusions don't work, and you can see the ethereal plane, I believe.
Yeah.
Obviously, these are good things against certain monsters, but seeing invisible things is very good.
Very useful.
And again, this is a bonus action, so if something turns invisible on its turn, you can then just go, there you are, and then blow them up. The next bit, now obviously this is the best one. The other transformation is you can get a flying speed that's equal to your walking speed, and you can hover. I guess hovering is a unique movement mode, isn't it?
That's because of like every other flight source is always like, oh, you glide and land and things like that.
Sure, yeah. So this
you never set off a trap again.
If you guys think back to 2020 with the Psionic, the wizard they had, he had a transformation as well. I didn't love it hugely myself, but it had aspects of this in there as well. So I feel like this is another pass at that, which is cool. So yeah, flying, obviously, for a psychic master, using Psionics only as like the damage, I feel like a fly speed makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
But by then, getting a fly speed of your movement speed is like, that's not even like that crazy.
No.
It's pretty fine.
I mean, you're moments away from like Zenyattering around, just...
Yes, true, yes. Floating about, that's cool. As you can see, the guy I've drawn is floating because he's got big robes. Because Duergar have to be able to transform their bodies and get big. So he's got to have big clothes. Now, obviously, I know that enlarge increases the size of your equipment. But I'm just going to leave it at that.
But quiet you.
But
shut up.
These last 2 transformations are a little weird. I'm sure they're good and useful, but I don't really know quite what they're going for. But the first one is you get a swimming speed that's twice your walking speed, and you can breathe underwater. Obviously, very useful. It's not a psychic power I would have thought to put in, but it's useful for sure.
Push it to the limit.
And when it's mind over body, I guess that context of the, sure, mind over body, you're just holding your breath with psychic power. And then the last one is your body and the equipment you got becomes pliable. You become a cool rubber guy, and then you can fit through a 1-inch hole without squeezing, which sounds.
You can Nickelodeon slime your way through any restraint.
Yeah, this is basically Michael Jordan in Space Jam getting sucked down the golf hole.
Yep.
Also worth mentioning, you can use 5 feet of your movement to escape from non-magical restraints or being grappled, which is crazy good.
Just turn into this rubber man.
You guys grab and you just go, okay, like.
A bonus action turned into rubber and zoom out of
Yeah, it's really weird, but
I am rubber, you are glue.
But sure. Again, I guess maybe if you went with like the Far Realm as your Psionic like
or Flump,
like Flump, or like the gibbering mouths. It's gross.
Yeah.
But after what I drew for the Rogue, I don't think I have any foot to stand on that. So that's really cool. I think again having that being a bonus action is kind of crazy. Not crazy overpowered, just like crazy fun. Because again, you get grabbed. You're a sorcerer. You're not necessarily strong. Your health isn't probably going to be amazing. You don't want to be grabbed. You use your bonus action to slip out of there. And then you can still use your action to blow him up. And then roll your Psionic die to hurt him. And the final thing, the level 18th thing, Psychic Aura. This is really cool. And It's kind of like if you remember the gravity wizard.
Yes,
from,
that was so good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's not quite as much, I don't think, but it's still very good. So when your die is available, you unleash your psionic power in an aura of psychic energy as a bonus action, 30-foot radius around you, which is big, very big in D&D.
Yeah.
Again, depending on how your DM makes his maps, that may be the entire map or like a quarter of it, but it's still a lot. And this lasts for a minute, and it's not concentration, but if you're incapacitated or if you lose your psionic die by rolling too consistently, then it'll end as well. But a minute, 10 turns, it's unlikely. I think, especially at 18th level, you're going to have a D12. It's unlikely to happen. When a creature starts its turn in the aura, or moves into the aura on a turn, that's all. The order of operations for that stuff always confuses me. Like, when do you roll the damage for Cloud of Daggers? It doesn't matter too much, so long as you make sure you don't roll it twice in a round.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You roll your die when they enter or are in it, and you deal psychic damage to them, equal to your psionic die, what you roll.
Plus your charisma. Which is probably going to be 20.
Yeah, 18th level.
Yeah.
Hopefully, unless
if what you're doing.
Yeah, if not at least an 18, right?
Yeah.
But, and if the creature takes the damage, their speed is halved until the start of its next turn, which is why I compared it to the Event Horizon. I think it was called.
Yeah, not quite getting sucked in, but they're going to find it harder to get out once they're in.
Yeah.
Yep, and it could technically last for like a whole day adventuring.
Yeah. And the thing about this thing as well is, I'm imagining like the scene when you have like 20 guys in your aura. And because there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to roll damage on all of them. But then you're running that massive risk of as soon as you're rolling for multiple enemies, as it were, you're going to be risking losing the die.
Yeah.
But you might not, and it'll go up and down.
Same chance to go right back up again.
Exactly. So it's really cool. That risk reward that we were talking about when we were first talking about the Psionic talent back in the fighter. It's just a really cool thing.
And also this is a really cool power to steal for a Mind Flayer.
Oh yeah.
Or
even like Elder Brain, stuff like that, anything like that.
You approach them and their psychic aura slows you down and, keeps attacking you, and it's just a really cool psychic, defensive ability.
And if the party have an understanding of how the mechanic works, they could be like, well, maybe if we all get in the aura, the odds of it losing its die. And if it's using it in lots of other ways as well, because this isn't even on your turn. This is a bonus action, and then you're just using it constantly.
Yeah.
And this is why I think it's this one plays so differently compared to the other two, because you're using the Psionic die not even once per turn. You're using it on other people's turn. You're using it all the time.
Psychic aura, there's some shenanigans that you can do with because of technically you can use ways to lock yourself down to keep yourself protected, because this isn't concentration. So you can stack things like a resilient sphere or something to make you immune.
Sit in the middle.
And then while your aura is hamster balling out, killing everyone. As you roll around the battlefield in your hamster ball.
Oh god, it would be fun. That's everything for this actual class, isn't it?
Should we talk about the spells with Sorcerer?
Sure, there's not so many of them now. They cut a couple of the spells from the original Unearthed ARTcana.
Synaptic Static and things like
that. I think a lot of them got put into some of the classes, is why. Which is cool. Yeah. So they've added some new spells for Sorcerer. I think the Sorcerer gets all the ones in here. It'd be unfair if they didn't, probably.
That would be a real tease.
Yeah, but then Bard can get them, and Wizard. And one of them's for Warlock. I'm glad to see that the best named one, Intellect Fortress, managed to stay a spell. Basically, you can give something resistance to psychic damage, and they have advantage on basically
mental stats.
The mental stats for saving throws. I think for a 4th level spell, that's not the best. I guess if you know that you're going to be fighting Mind Flayers, for example.
Putting out on the fighter.
Yeah. And Charmed and such we've talked about, it's not a nice condition, so having advantage against that is good, but again, it's a 4th level spell, it's one target, and concentration as well, so it's going to be it's situationally good, but it's not going to change anyone's world, I don't think.
No, well, there's not really any other ways to get resistance to Psychic.
That's probably true, actually, yeah. I think, Psychic is one of the ones that's usually...
It's a very good damage type. Not
not usually resisted.
And the idea of the mind battle between you and the mind flayer.
Both just holding your fingers to your temple, just shooting mind rays.
Especially, I think this is one that again the bard can get this as well. This feels like a good bard spell.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even have to have this be psionic explicitly for it to be a bard spell or anything. It's just a good resistance spell. Anywho, the new cantrip.
I love this cantrip.
Yeah, mind sliver. This is a mind bullet, isn't it? Right?
This is a mind bullet, yeah.
Yeah.
You do a spike of psychic energy. It does a d6 psychic damage.
Intelligence saving throw. Not many things.
Oh, that's
are
true.
in
Yeah,
saves.
actually, yeah. I was about to say. I was trying to see if it was a attack roll, but no, an int saving throw. That's going to be really good against basically every beast who has an int less than 10.
And the next time it makes a save, you minus d4.
Yeah, so it has the bane effect on it, kind of. Really good cantrip.
Yeah.
Obviously, very good bread and butter for a psionic class like this. And I guess if you wanted to take, is it Mage Initiate that gives you a cantrip? If you were playing like the Psi Knight, could be cool to take that.
Yeah.
You grab this.
Pick
grab
it
this
up.
cantrip. Yeah.
Mind Thrust, second level enchantment. So this is an enchantment. This is one of the ones that could be discovered by your sorcerer with his thingamy.
Intelligence saving throw, and the target takes 3d6 psychic damage and can't take reactions until the end of its
Okay, so it's like a super version of Shocking Grasp in that it has that reaction removal thing.
And it can only take a move action or a bonus action.
Oh,
choose one
wow,
of them.
okay.
Has to choose one of them. So you basically are stunning the guy over it and dealing damage.
So it
to
won't
him.
be able to move and attack. It has to either attack something that's next to it, or move to something, or use a bonus action. Okay, that's very good for a second level spell.
It's shutting one guy. It's one target, and you're just shutting him
Really
down.
good.
Flavor wise, it's perfect.
I feel like that might be quite strong for a second level. I guess the damage isn't crazy.
It's one target as well. Compare that to Scorching Ray.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But then again, all those fire spells are quite powerful. And it's 3 to hit rolls. And again, this is one target creature.
Yeah.
It's one hit, which means it works with Psychic Strike.
Oh, that's true.
Because Psychic Strike says that
Mm-hmm.
Psychic Strike says that it's immediately after you deal damage to a creature with a sorcery spell. You can roll your Sonic die. So it's stacked, so you can also be rolling your Sonic dies with this attack.
Probably one of the better damaging enchantment spells, right? Especially at this level.
Oh.
I've not thought about that.
Yeah,
So if you're playing an
probably.
enchantment wizard, this would be a pretty good one to pick up.
You grab this.
Yeah, I think only Dragon's Breath.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. But that doesn't really count.
And then there's a bunch of feats as well. Should we talk about the feats? There's quite a few of them.
I don't think we should talk about most of them.
No.
I think we should talk about Wild Talent.
Yeah, that is important.
Because that's the one that actually gives psi options, which are to do with these
So there's
classes.
a whole bunch of feats that basically give you more stuff you can do with a sound talent die. There's quite a few of them. They're all pretty good for the most part. And if you were playing that rogue who doesn't have a lot of options with their sound talent die, these would be some good ones to pick up if you wanted to actually get to use it a bit more. But at the end of this, there's this one extra one called Wild Talent. And this is just a feat you can take if you're not a Psionic class, because all the other ones have the prerequisite that you have to have the Psionic Talent die already. And this Wild Talent one gives you a Psionic Talent die, which means you can then take the rest of these feats as well, which is cool.
That's great.
I like that.
And it's copy. I don't know if it's just copy and pasted, but the die levels up as you level up.
Yeah. So it's not.
Yep.
I compare it there to the Battle Master. There's a feat that gives you a superiority die, but the superiority die is always, I think it's a D6, and you get only 2 moves, so it's not as good. And neither.
I would not be surprised if that may be a misprint.
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's not. It kind of makes it kind of not great, unless you already have it, and then it gives you more. Anyway.
No, I mean this version might be a misprint.
right.
With it,
I get you.
with it actually leveling up, because that is a very powerful feat.
Because it also gives you an ability score improvement.
One ability score of your choice.
That's right. Yeah, but then one of the things you can use is a psi guided strike, which gives you that on an attack roll using the attribute that you increased. So you would want to put it into hit with an attack roll. So it could be with a spell attack roll.
But yeah, it gives you like the psi guided strike again. Yeah, when you make it to hit roll, you can roll a certain talent die, and you can replace one of the damage die with the number you rolled. Yeah. Which is cool.
Kind of not. It's not reusing a mechanic from another one of these classes. It's just slightly different again, which it's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I like it, and then a boosted ability. The easiest way of putting it, these two are the generics.
Sure, yeah.
Like boost a damage and boost an ability score.
Mm-hmm.
But this feat looks quite tasty just for those two things. It's better than Lucky,
It's better than a lot of
opinion.
them.
Because, I mean, Lucky feels bad to take because there's no risk reward. It's roll another d20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel that having maybe a d6, I'd maybe feel a bit sad leveling my dice up and getting more powerful psychic. Particularly if there was another psychic.
Sure,
in the
yeah.
group,
Unless
and I suddenly stole your
unless
thing.
everyone's psychic, and then that's fun.
That's true. You could give everyone this feat to run a campaign
I think as
with.
well, this is a great one. Annoying, this only works if you're playing variant human, but if you were planning to go into the rogue or the sci-fighter, this could be a good one to have at level 1 if you do play the variant human who starts with a feat. This would be a good, like, hey, I'm not just suddenly going to become psychic, I've had it the whole time.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very good. I like that.
Yeah.
And I personally, you guys know, I have nothing against the idea of everyone having a feat to begin with to make the choice to not play variant human feel a little bit easier, as it were. So
I like that.
but yeah, so yes, this is what I've drawn. I guess we'll address the drawing.
Yeah, I love
Thank
it.
you. It's Durga. He's got no shoes on. I don't know why.
He's so malevolent.
He definitely
in
looks
his house.
That's true. Yeah, he's at home. But yeah, all Durgar look evil because they're so paranoid. I think again that Durgar's a really good one for Psionics because they're like paranoid, smart. They've been experimented on by
They've
mind
dealt with
players.
mind stuff.
Yeah,
They're angry.
yeah, they're good. They're all good for it. I think if I was to play any of these, it'd probably be between Sorcerer and the Fighter for me. Actually, I really actually like the Sorcerer. I have not really ever considered playing the Sorcerer before. I did like the Giant Soul one, though it didn't really make me go, "Oh yeah, I'm going to play a Sorcerer now." So this one is probably my favorite Sorcerer, and I would play one. I would play this guy. But yeah, I guess that's the end. Unless anyone has any closing thoughts, we like this one. I think, right?
I think that's fairly evident from the last 30-40 minutes conversation. But yeah, I think it was mostly it's good. I think it's very fun.
I do too. Yeah.
Cool stuff. Good job, all you funky fresh wizards with your cool new subclasses. I wasn't expecting Psionics Revisited, to be honest, but
it was a surprise.
I bet you next week there's going to be another batch coming right out.
I'm not putting any money on it.
That's too soon, surely. That'd be like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh god. Well, I mean, I think between subclasses part like 2 and 3, it was only like a week and a half.
That's so true.
Yeah, and we've been being bombarded.
I think now that they have the psionic talent die mechanic, they can kind of not churn them out. That's not what I mean. But
Think of some more interesting ones.
It means that you can put that in a class, and it has a grounding already to build from. You're not having to recreate what psionics are every time you make a new subclass.
Like we need Bard.
I'm obsessed with the idea of a psychic barbarian. I want that so much.
I love the idea of a psychic bard.
Psychic bard probably pretty good. A monk, obviously, I think is an obvious. Again, like you can now play a Githyanki Knight guy. Got to play the Githyanki Monk guy now.
Predicting it right now. Bard monk.
Bard monk. I think that's the end of the video. Thanks everybody for watching. If you've got this far, that's very kind. Check out some of the other ones. They're all pretty something.
Definitely not Unearthed ARTcana.
Not an Unearthed ARTcana. I think we're going to have to stop saying that at some point.
No.
Never.
Hopefully you'll just forget. Goodbye and good night.